by Wolves, Season 2, Episode 8, Happiness. A lot to unpack here. Some fun theories. I think we were kind of right. We're kind of wrong. And there's more questions that we are going to be asking. Yes. Let's go.
Hey everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John and the season finale for Season 2 of Raised by Wolves. Mm-hmm. So first off, it's fun. We've gotten so many comments and so many theories from all the viewers and listeners of the podcast and the episodes, and it's been fun. Like, you guys have been super smart, and almost everything that's happened in the show, at least one person has thrown out, and it's been so much fun. We're going to get into more comment videos as we go over this finale after this video as well. But so Nick, we haven't talked about this at all.
No, midnight showing. Our first time watching it at midnight. Turn around.
Yes, so this is literally about 15-20 minutes after the episode ended, and we're recording. Yes, this is fun stuff. So first off, this is not related directly to the story, but I thought it was interesting. So we had Sue in the last episode, you know, the seed absorbs into her hand. We see her frantically digging. And then the next day, there's just a tree there. And I thought that was great. I like that we just, as an audience, you know, connect the dots. And then we see Marcus and Paul come to that conclusion themselves. Mm-hmm. In this episode, they show you real good. And this reminds me of a scene from, Scarface, where there's a scene where they're supposed to be chainsawing a guy in the tub, and they didn't show it, but when they were trying to get an R rating, it was rated X. And the people, the rating board came back and said that shower scene is too graphic. And they said, we don't show it. Your minds are just filling in the blanks. And sometimes our minds filling in the blanks is actually better, and, you know, letting us picture it in our minds. And did you think they needed to show that, or do you think that was better they showed that, or I don't know. I thought it wasn't necessary.
I think it's part of the brainwashing that's going on.
You think so? Okay.
Oh,
so
yeah. There's some major brainwashing going on here with video games. I don't know if they're trying to make a connection to real world brainwashing. I'm like, whoa, don't go there.
Is this 1995 with Mortal Kombat all over again, you guys? I'm like, whatever. Shut your mouth and keep talking.
There is so much to unpack on this episode. We'll start at the beginning. The veil goes on Mother, right? And then right away, she's already like more just robotic, I want to say. Not as many, you know, emotions and stuff like that. Yeah. She goes, she freaking, the serpent wants to like connect to the mom, like with the ports and stuff. And it was like denied, access denied. Like it's been locked, like the password has been changed. And basically she does her super scream. And then she freaking one punches him in the eye. Like how rude. So intense. I was just like, whoa.
But it really gets across the idea that this veil, you know, completely cuts off your emotion. It's like, yeah, that's her child. And even if she, you know, still is able to view it as an enemy enough to kill, it's like she had no care. It's like, you know what, I'm just going to take out, you know, right through your eyeball. Whereas this thing is still, you know, to an extent, you know, this, you're my mom. Oh, you're poking my eye out. Oh, I'm dead. So it's like, it's a rough way to go. You know, there was a small video for those of you that are watching this. There was a small video after the episode where they're talking about the making of the episode, and they get into that. We'll get into that like at the end of the episode, or maybe in extra videos after this. But yeah, they have some cool comments and stuff on that stuff as well.
And then after that, basically we see
was there anything else you wanted to talk about with the serpent?
First of all, I noticed the serpent was gold, which I didn't really notice that before. I've noticed it was a little bit more gold in its sheen. It looked so dark at first, the first time we saw it and stuff. And I just noticed like a gold reflection, which I was like, I don't know. And I thought it was cool at the beginning too. Campion like squeezes the berries to sketch it on. Yeah. I'm like, oh, wasn't that used in National Treasury or something like that? Or like I thought like they did.
And the whole time he's doing the berry stuff, I'm like, hey dude, picking up much radiation there? Like the whole time, like man, I don't think the safe zone.
Yeah, and I think they
addressed it. They addressed it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And but okay, so we can go deep into theory. Should we just go deep into theories? Yeah, we don't need to do an episode review. You guys watched it. Yeah. Okay, so at the end, grandmother I know I'm jumping to the end, but she mentions the entity will go back to sleep once the humans are de-evolved. So is the entity the good thing and the mother's working for the bad side, or we don't know which one's good or which one's bad, or she's trying to preserve human life just by making them live without intelligence so the entity doesn't want to use their intelligence? I'm like so like all over the place right now because like it was so interesting because, oh my God, there's so much to unpack.
Nick's so confused. Nick is just overwhelmed.
Well, just with that statement, right? Because we know the snake now was probably trying to protect the entity by destroying the tree, right? Or was it vice versa?
I'm not sure. We still know exactly what's going on quite yet.
Yeah, because we don't know if it's so over the place.
Nick's
and then we got
the
I know, because we literally just stopped watching. Yeah. I'm processing with you guys, which is probably not the best thing to do. But and then we get Marcus's twist ending too, which my theory is he's evolved to the next stage of a necromancer, maybe. Robotic.
Well, Marcus is, one of the big question marks, and people had said, like he's gonna have some of the viewers have been saying, like, yeah, he's had a very interesting story and he's been a very dynamic character, and we definitely agree. He's been, along with Sue, ironically enough, that couple has been maybe the most dynamic characters in the whole show. And so, he's basically nailed to Sue upside down, and, one way or another, them together, he's kind of evolving to the next step of that. And, kind of a weird cliffhanger. I was figuring there was going to be, I was responding to comments.
I had so many questions.
I was responding to comments literally about 15 minutes before the finale started, tonight. I was like, yeah, it's going to get weird in about 15 minutes. I'm responding to comments. So it got weird.
Yeah, it got weird. And they definitely teased us with going back into the hole. Oh my gosh. They definitely were like, oh, you want to go back? Well, not today.
Yeah. I was hoping we were going to get that in this episode. That kind of bummed me out. But I'm glad we got Lucius. We had some, more exposure to him because, we kind of hadn't got a whole lot with him in the last couple episodes. So it's fun that we got some more with him here.
No, that was good too. And okay, so I just loved, there's so many good foreshadowing moments in this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Like when Marcus is talking to grandmother and he's like, oh, I'm done with this. She's like, I don't think you're done yet. And it's like, no. And then we see me like, sacrificed, nailed to a cross basically. And he got like the crown of thorns on his head. It's like so like crazy, like, if you want to go that route. But also we also got the foreshadowing from Father. Let's not touch or mess with any ancient relics. And there's one in the room with them called Grandmother. It's like,
some of the stuff bugged me in this episode. I mean, the little girl setting off a firework just happens in the ground right there. There's another seed pod. I'm like, okay, I guess, like, okay, like some of the stuff like that kind of, I swear the serpent, I was getting Monty Python vibes. I'm not dead yet. Turning into the tree. I'm not dead yet. I was just like, I was just kind of giggling at certain spots. Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. Some of it's,
sometimes I feel like theories are more fun than what comes out in the show. Like, I remember that with Game of Thrones and stuff like that. But it's just so much fun because that'll help. But obviously, we didn't get a lot of answers still. We probably left with more questions. We know Mother is working with the idea so far that we know for preserving life on the planet, which would be
grandmother. You mean
yes, grandmother. Yeah, Sorry about that. For de-evolving humans, but it just makes me think like the idea of what was the point of the serpent then? So the serpent must have been the sword, but it's so confusing because now I think Marcus could be the prophet. Because he's like floating in the air and stuff like that, and but it's also interesting too because it's the upside down version of Mother. Because Mother's pose is like this, and his is the other way. So it just is so many like interesting visuals that were going on there and stuff. But I have a couple more theories. But what else should we cover before we go deep down the rabbit hole? Oh yeah, the Starfish video game. That reminded me of Suicide Squad because the starfishes were used for mind control, and like this game's being used for mind control. I'm like, no way, this is Suicide Squad level stuff.
Oh, that's hilarious. It
better not be a giant starfish in the center of the planet.
That's so funny. Yeah, they were definitely making a statement about video games here a little bit, and I wasn't completely enjoying it, but it was kind of interesting. So I do really like, and it is one of the things that the listeners in the comments got wonderfully. Is it like, yeah, maybe the way of maintaining the human race, one way or another, is to devolve, the humans, and that was totally it. And I'm really, proud of like the listeners in the comments, like they totally humans. Nailed that. Yeah, it's just a fun. And father even said to grandmother, her whole plot thing is like, yeah, we haven't told them that the animals are devolved humans. Like, we don't want to, upset them a little bit. It's like, it's just fun. There's a lot of dialogue going on there that's really, really fun. And, I kind of wish we didn't have that episode preview last week of Mother, being wrapped up in the veil. Cause it's like,
you don't have to watch it, John.
I know. Well, for this show, I kind of have to. Yes, I do. But it's like, that was one of our big cliffhangers, and we kind of knew it was coming, at the end of that. But now Marcus, we had no idea that was coming. And now at the same time, I was like, all right, this is the equivalent of Mother like spitting up a serpent baby at the end of season 1, where I was like, season 1 got weird in the finale, and I wasn't particularly thrilled with the finale, and I'm not particularly thrilled with this one at the same time. But
it's because we have so many questions. Exactly, we have so many questions. And I hate to say, I feel like we're getting a little bit of the Lost treatment with the Lost show. I just feel like you're just compiling more and more, just almost dragging us along a little bit too far. But I get it though. I understand it too, because like that's what the show's based off of too. And
and
there's so many.
And we have had some great comments in the last week from people saying, and I don't know which episode or behind the scenes or whatever, but they said like, the main show writer has said that, hey, this has a 5-season arc that I've planned out. Now there's never a guarantee that they're going to get 5 seasons. They may try and condense it if funding's not there. I mean, it's a popular show right now, so I'm assuming it's going to get renewed for those, or they might want to stretch it out. They wanted Game of Thrones to go for at least 10 seasons. And then the showrunner said like, nah, we're done with this, so it sounds like he has a plan, and hopefully they stick to it. But at the same time, plans do sometimes change. But that's encouraging. Like Lost, I never went through the whole thing, so I don't know if they had a fixed arc. But it sounds like
debated.
It sounds like at least there is an outline on this is how I want it to start and this is how I want it to end. Do they have everything thought out? Probably not, but they have an overall plan.
So okay, some interesting things I think we need to hold on to. Just some interesting tidbits. So grandmother did not remove the eyes of Mother.
Which I was surprised. I thought she would for sure have done that, because she knew she was like kind of weapon based. Yeah. I'm assuming so. And so I thought she would have,
which is really weird too, why she wouldn't remove the eyes. You would think to ensure,
Yes. I mean, she did emphasize, you're powered down in the veil. You can't do anything. So from a Android standpoint, I don't need to do that. It's unnecessary. It's redundant. So it makes sense that she wouldn't do that. But at the same time, it's like, you're trying to ensure the survival of the devolved human race. Let's go ahead and take that extra precaution, grandmother. Come on.
It's like Dr. Evil. Like, no, we're just going to close the doors and assume everything went to plan.
Close the freaking doors. Everything's going to be fine. Okay.
Exactly. That was good.
Thanks.
But it's so interesting because now she's back in the simulation where she was.
I think we're going to get some creator stuff again. Do you think? Or no?
I hope there's something in her code that's going to help her break out, because like we know she's been reprogrammed and coded, and we have no idea what the original Campion programmed her for and why the code is a certain way too, because maybe he predicted something like this, and there's always a backup to the backup plan, and something like that. And because he programmed her in such a way so she would be a caregiver to make sure the survival of her children. Where grandmother wants the survival of just the human race in general. So like she literally, like she's taken her code to heart. Like, well, this entity wants to do something with intelligent beings, so we have to de-evolve them just so they live, kind of thing.
And they haven't talked about him in a while. That was more season 1 material, but they keep talking about, the original Campion or whatever you want to refer him as being, the brightest and, really a super ultra intelligent individual. And so it's like, you would think that, I don't know, we obviously don't know grandmother's whole origin story, but you would think that
hopefully we'll get it next season.
The cool thing is, grandmother is now established as a character. We're going to be getting a lot more personality from her now that she's not wearing the veil.
Great casting.
Yeah, and she looks freaky with the blue, like large, iris contacts too. But the cool thing is probably next season, I would assume, Mother's going to lose the veil at some point. Maybe there'll be a couple episodes. She's such a big character to the show. I don't think they'd have more than an episode where she's not there,
Yeah.
And so we're going to get grandmother and mother probably unveiled. So we're going to get the acting of the two of them. I think it'll be fun. I mean,
I think Campion's going to find her.
Maybe Father.
Maybe. I think maybe. Yeah, either Father or Campion. I feel like Campion's going to feel bad, like with his last interaction he had with his mother, and he's going to try to find her. But
so do you think? I mean, Mother knows at this point that grandmother's plan of the devolving nature of that and things like that. Do you think that?
It's already starting, even with Campion, right?
But do you think Father or any of the other of them is going to figure it out before Mother breaks out? Or do you think Mother's going to sweep in and save the day and they're not going to even know what's going on?
I mean, it could even be Marcus at this point.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, you would think Father would be smart enough to note that this change is not good, and he would be monitoring that. But, I don't know how complex his
or how good Mother or grandmother is at programming or reprogramming, because like what's changing them, John? Like, was it the game that's altering their DNA? Was it the ash coming in now from the hole that's altering their DNA? Or was it the seaweed that they're eating now that's altering their DNA? Because like we know the mer people are always by the seaweed. Like even in the cave, there's like always like the seaweed stuff. And is it just by eating the seaweed, it's going to change them into it? Or is it a process of...
My assumption was, they had that whole scene of grandmother giving those, game Starfish Suicide Squad, cassettes to the vendor. So my assumption is that's playing some type of play into that, and we know that originated from grandmother. So I'm assuming that's doing some reprogramming them, because we don't know if the other colonists were having that change happening. We know it was happening to Campion because we had the close-up analysis of them. We know it's happening to the baby because the baby was drinking the milk. But as far as the rest of them,
drinking the seaweed milk,
it might just be from the ones that were playing the game.
Yeah. And then from this episode, I got a lot of trust vibes from grandmother, where it's very much just like making sure the human race survives. Obviously, hers is a little bit
view.
Because obviously we know the trust didn't know about the entity, I think, at this point. So like, I think Mother's like very similar programming, where it's just ensuring the survival of the human race in general. Like, do whatever we have to do to keep them alive, even if it's like make them turtles or whatever, just so they're just like wandering around. It's like, hey, they're alive, it's all good, we're checking the box. It's like Homer just going in to work, Homer Simpson, he's just doing the bare minimum just to make sure that he gets the job done.
I mean, it's very objective, and to me, like, just looking at this show, trying to look at it objectively, that's a better view than Mother's programming, where you're going to sacrifice whatever you need to in order to keep these 6 children safe. That seems a more chaotic and sacrificial way of doing things.
Yeah.
Now, the whole grandmother view of things, where we're going to devolve them, that just seems like a lack of programming specificity, where like maybe you should have, specified you're not going to let her devolve them into like, mer people and like spider, ground people. That seems just like, but I love that idea. She's following her programming to the best of her ability, and that's what she found as a more reliable way to get to the conclusion. I mean, it goes back to the whole Terminator thing. It's like, you're destined to blow yourself up, like destruction's in your nature. And I love that whole idea. It's just, this is the way she found that to, come to a safe conclusion. Just whoever did the program, you need to do some debugging there, buddy.
Yeah.
Just,
So the technocrats, right? That's who we think those cards are from, right? Uh-huh. And when we played it, you saw the seance circle, whatever the circle is, right? Around the guy with the tree. Yeah. And then we saw that in another card in the first season, but it was around the robotic thing in the chamber.
The alien thing with the weird face, right?
Yeah,
which kind of looks like an alien.
Is that grandfather? But because remember too, because like I think in season 1 too, there was like another necromancer and android skull that Mother was touching too, that she saw in the cave before giving birth. I think there was something like that where she saw the skull of another robotic
the weird
android.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought it was
there was
thing.
that one, and then there was another one that was more human-like face.
Okay.
So and it's so interesting. Okay, so because now I'm really confused about Paul hearing the voice, because it seems like the voice he listened to told him to destroy the cards.
Yeah.
And it looks like Mother's totally fine, or grandmother's totally fine with these cards just being around. So it's like, it feels like there's two forces here. It really feels like there's two forces here. Like I don't know what the two forces are. Have fun in the comments down below, because we're definitely doing a comment video after this, because your guys' theories are much more. And plus, I'm like a little loopy right now too, because I'm just like confused. It's late. Got to edit, It's like,
but it's super fun.
Help me out, John. I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, no, we were ultra excited to watch this one, and like the cool thing is we know. I mean, this has been such a successful show for HBO Max. We're under the assumption there's going to be more seasons, and we're excited to get more. Like, we're hoping it's not going to be another 2 years before we get the next season and things like that. But we're excited to see where this is going to go.
The kids can't de-evolve, right? I mean, like, the goal is to save the kids, right? At this point with the story.
The assumption is Mother, she might take a few, The serpent was the big question mark at the end of season 1. And it took a episode or two, but the serpent came around, and then it was okay. And then it played a bigger part later on. I'm assuming it's going to be the same thing. Like, there's going to be a big threat at the beginning of season 1. It's going to be resolved at least somewhat. And then, something's going to come back around. I'm really curious what the big... We don't really have an antagonist. We have this unseen entity that we at least have a name entity to assign to at this point. We've had soul,
core. We have voice. Yeah. We have so many names we put to it.
That's the closest thing we have to an antagonist in this, but we really don't know. Is it an antagonist? Is it just, playing its part? We don't know what its purpose is, but we don't really have an antagonist. The closest thing we have to an antagonist right now, as of this season, is grandmother. But grandmother's just trying to, do her thing as far as best of her programming.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah. I totally right. So you mentioned programming. This guy, that was like full on Truman Show almost, right?
Ed Harris. Ed Harris, like...
But like, it felt like they were in a digital dome. Like, are they in a simulation? Yeah. I know we've had some crazy theories out there, and I have no idea if we're even going this far, kind of thing. But
that keeps the biodome sphere, whatever it is, just keeps it green, like greenery and things like that.
It totally looked like code, though.
Well, I mean, it's like a force field almost, right?
But someone had to create it, though, right?
Yeah. Oh,
it was definitely created.
Established that it was there. Yeah, I think it was already established.
I just didn't know it was like because of the trees or life. I didn't know the sky was like that. I don't remember the sky ever being like that comb, the honeycomb pattern, which we saw in the sand and other stuff like that. I was just like, oh, that's very interesting.
I don't think we had ever seen it before until that shockwave from Mother's blast. I honestly, like, my recollection was that it was just a natural, kind of tropical zone. That was what I recollected from season 1 when they had talked about it. But I mean, in the comments below, you guys will correct me because I'm probably all wrong. But yeah, so clearly it had some type of setup to where it was created that, because then the snow started coming in. And we're assuming
snow,
like
ash,
Mother and grandmother,
nanobots.
All these snow or just the temperatures dropping, all that's happening. Yeah, I mean, we're assuming that's snow, but we've already seen the whole tooth nanobots thing happening. So, who knows what's going on. I would assume if it was nanobots, like, Father would probably latch onto that. It's like, this is a nanobot, like you'd hear him talk about it. I'm assuming he's not completely helpless in analyzing these things. Yeah. He's like put stuff on his tongue and analyzed it before. So I'm assuming he would notice that stuff too.
And then crazy theory. I don't want Mary Sue to go, but do you think with him floating or something like that, you think it had anything to do with Mary being in the tree at all? Or you think Mary Sue's gone and it's just like we're just latching on to craziness at this point?
You know what? I mean, he was nailed to the tree that was the snake that is also Sue. I mean, so there's
the Trinity, 3 in 1.
I guess. I mean, he was crucified. I mean, so there is that whole. I mean, there's obviously symbolism attached to that. I mean, crucifixion is obviously kind of well, it's been along a lot more than just biblical stuff, but. There's definitely things attached to that, and I would think that there's something
because that's an old Mithraic relic too that they put on with the helmet.
Yeah,
and obviously the atheists were using it as a torture thing or whatever they were doing, like this. But that has to be some part of a ritual somewhere. I feel like putting on a helmet like that has to lead to something. I feel like it definitely, and I'm so curious what's gonna happen to poor Marcus.
Well, I mean the most curious thing, and I'm expecting we're going to have to wait until the end of season 5. It does end up being 5 seasons to really know what the entity is and what's going on with it. I mean, clearly, at least I would imagine, like Lucius was told to, put that on Marcus so that would happen to him. Now, I don't know why he would have to go through that process, but it's like, okay, nail him to the tree, crucify him upside down, put this on him, just like everything else that led Sue out there to turn into the tree. So you'd imagine that all this is being formed together. We don't know what the play is for the entity, or like you've been saying, other people have been saying, are there 2 different voices that are kind of guiding people in different directions? But we're definitely going to be getting more people hearing the voice now that we have that shield, whatever you want to call it, down. And so, and especially now that Mother isn't there to monitor them, we might see some much crazier things happening come next season. And we're probably going to be seeing some crazy funk going on. So it's going to be fun stuff.
We definitely are de-evolving to Mother in a simulation. It's going to be great.
And what I remember of season 1 is going to continue to devolve. So by the time we get to season 3, I'm going to have to go back and watch season 1.
Everyone comment down below for John to go back and watch season 1 and 2.
Exactly. It's going to need to happen for sure. But at that point, that's the good thing about having a bad memory. I'm going to be so excited. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch this series for the first time. It's going to be great.
Lucky.
By the way, you guys, thank you so much for filling out our first poll last week. We were asking about your favorite platform that you like to consume your streaming content on. We got some good answers from that and also comments on what you might like to see. And so we're posting a brand new poll on specific shows that are streaming right now that you might want us to transition to next. We've loved going through this journey with you. We don't want to lose you. We want to continue to have you in the conversation. So please let us know what you're interested in watching, as a viewer. And then also if you'd like to continue to tune in and hear us talk about this stuff. And again, one of the funnest things for us is not only Nick and I and expert Kyle when he's on as guest, us talking about it, but having the conversation with you guys as well. So we'd really love to continue to have you. The big goal for us is to not only have our conversations amongst us 3 or 4 or whoever guests, but have a whole community for us to nerd out about this stuff with. So please let us know down in the comments below. Check out the old poll and the new poll. We'll continue to monitor those for streaming services and particular shows. And then in the particular shows, please continue to leave comments on those as well. So thank you very much for going on this season 2 Raised by Wolves journey with us, you guys. We're going to be having some comment videos and extra Raised by Wolves stuff coming up in the next couple weeks. So check out all that stuff. Check out AsArt.space for all the audio and video links for all the content we have. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next AsArt. Upside down, Marcus.